going back to referrals too, sometimes I think people feel guilty for asking their friends and their network for things because they don't want to be like seen as the optic of like not giving back or just asking for too much.
So referrals go right to the top of the pile. And for you and for me, in these stories that we're telling, my next job I got because my former boss happened to be in a dog park with the guy that I was interviewing and met him. And he goes, KG is great. You should hire him. And so despite not having any industry experience, Jeremy, this new VP of sales was like, well, Jay thinks you're great. I met Jay at the dog park. Jay seems like a good guy. Boom, you're hired.
Hey, Kevin, welcome to Social Dream Machine. I am excited to speak with you today. So to kind of frame up our conversation, I'm going to kind of talk about a personal experience that happened to me, so to learn more about your experiences in life. But the idea is basically I got fired about 4 or 5 months ago from a gig that I was a marketing director for 4 years for a software company. And pretty much out of the blue, I just got canned. And I remember at that time, I was just thinking to myself, shit, like, what am I going to do next? And am I fucked for a while? Yeah. So at that time, I was just really freaking out. And it turned out like I ended up putting a post out on LinkedIn on a Friday. And I had interviewed my new boss that I work for now on a podcast 4 months earlier. And he hired me within 4 days. And like perfect opportunity. And he was actually okay with me having a side business because I teach others people how to like podcast on the side. So it was really interesting because it ended up being like a weird, because the other company didn't like that I had a side business. So it's really interesting how like some of these things like end up being really crappy. So I wanted to talk about I know you've been laid off a few times, one in 2001. We'll go through kind of each of these stories, but in 2001, you had a pregnant wife and an SUV purchase. So could we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. But let me, but you're, I know you're the host, but I'm not going to let you off that easy. When you tell me about the first few hours after you got laid off out of the blue, how did you feel?
Oh gosh, it was awful. I mean, I felt like crap, but at the same time, like it was really weird because I knew that it was going to happen. Like I felt the energy, like I felt the negativity. And I also felt like they didn't like what I was doing on the side. They looked at me like I was like a distraction from, and I looked at it like, hey, I'm a marketer. Like I'm bringing people to our brand, and it doesn't matter if I'm selling your product or my product. People follow people. So I kind of like knew that, and I just knew that they were not the right organization for me because they were too old the way they thought. Even though they're younger than me, they're old school in the way that they thought. So it was really interesting because at that time it was just really crap. But like I don't think you could really see everything when you're in the situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let me ask you this directly: were you angry?
I was a little bit annoyed. I don't want to say like angry, but I was like certainly like. Actually, I maybe I would say angry. Like I think I was angry at the situation because I just thought it was not. They didn't really respect anything that I contributed to the team. Like they just looked at me as. Well, they didn't have a podcast before I started there. They didn't believe in social media. They didn't believe in LinkedIn. They didn't believe in marketing. And it would be people that are like wearing Nikes and like Ray-Bans and then saying like, oh, I don't believe in marketing as you're holding up your Starbucks cup. I'm like, dude, you just don't understand that you're being marketed to is the problem. So
yeah, lovely. Cognitive dissonance. Wonderful. Yeah, no. So I wanted you to express those feelings because they're so fresh for you. Back in September 2001, my wife and I had just gotten married a year earlier. My wife was pregnant with our first child. We had just bought an SUV and took on, for the kid that was coming, and took on a big car payment. And then 9/11 happened actually. Right during that time, which was, incredibly challenging. But like you though, it just felt weird. Like it just felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt like a fish out of water. This CEO, his sales strategy was get them laid, get them drunk. And that was not my bag at all. Like that wasn't my gig. And I was hitting my numbers, but he didn't like the way I was doing it. For sure, he was the old school guy. Old school guy, you take him out, drinks, dinner, golf. This is somebody who would drink like 3 screwdrivers at lunch and then go play golf in the afternoon and then show back up in the office late in the afternoon and be completely trashed. He smoked in the office. In the office. Now, this is 2001, okay? So it's not like, and it's California.
Yeah, I hate smoke. That's gross.
Same here. And it was like disrespectful. And I felt like a fish out of water. However, I was hitting my numbers and I just figured, well, this is the way it goes for the rest of my life. It's work, right? It sucks. It's work. Okay.
Right.
And then 9/11 happens and all this stuff. And I walk in one morning and his assistant goes, Malcolm would like to see you now. And I'm like, okay, great. I guess this is odd. And he pulls me in and we're going in a different direction. And I'm telling you, Jeremy, I was pissed. I've done everything for this guy. But basically what he wanted to do was hire other clones like him with the get him laid, get him drunk type of mentality. But I was still pissed. And again, I had a wife, a new car payment, rent to pay, a child on the way. And I was like really, really angry. And within that 24 hours, Jeremy, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sue this guy. I'm going to sue this guy for wrongful termination, all this kind of stuff. But then I thought about it. And like you said, when you're in the moment, you don't have that kind of clarity. 24 hours went by and my anger subsided. And I realized, wait a minute, I wasn't happy here. I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And now I've got an opportunity, Jeremy, to do something else, to change my station in life, to go try something completely different. And I can say now, this is sort of, I haven't buried the lead well enough, or actually I've buried the lead a ton. Getting fired from that job was literally the best thing that could ever happen to me in my entire life, because I found a new job through other connections, through people that knew me, just like you. Found a new job 6 weeks later and in a completely different industry that I never thought I would ever be able to break into, because it was a new, it was online advertising versus some old school thing that I was doing previously. And within 10 months of getting that job, I got promoted to director of inside sales and had a team reporting to me.
Oh, wow.
I even took a cut in pay, by the way, to take that job. I took a cut in pay from the old industry to the new. And from there, my career absolutely skyrocketed. And that's not the only time, though, that I've been laid off or fired, and or quit without a job, which is so scary. But things got infinitely better, and I feel strongly, with like a hard exclamation point on the end of it, Jeremy, that when these things happen to you, your mindset decides what happens next. How you decide to approach this. Is it an opportunity, or are you a helpless victim?
No, I think that's totally fair. I think that if you approach it, if you look at it internally, like, what did I do wrong? And you take it personally for the reason you got laid off, then you can go into a very dark place. But if you go into it like you're saying, like, maybe the environment wasn't right for me, and like, I'm going to just try my bat. I think the problem is that people start applying and maybe they don't have the greatest strategy or network, and they're just going through like websites or job boards and applying and just getting rejected just because there's so many applications for those positions. And maybe they didn't build a personal brand. I think part of the reason I built a personal brand even like a couple of years ago was because I didn't want to be in these situations ever again. I thought to myself, like, I don't want to be ever held hostage by an employer. So I will grow a person. My goal was like, I think I have like close to 7,000 followers now, but my goal is to get past 10 and then obviously further at some point. But the idea is that you have a big enough network. You don't ever have to worry about getting laid off again. And then my other thing was that the last podcast I created, I interviewed like over 100 CEOs. So like, if you interview 100 people that have the power to interview you, or not interview, but the power to actually hire you, like, you kind of strategize things where you're getting in these bigger rooms so that you know people that could help you, but then also just diversifying your streams of income as well. So like now I'm like trying to get like 5 or 6 different streams of income, like from like a YouTube channel to like a podcasting cohort to a like one-on-one coaching. So there's all these different kind of things and layers. And then I also work for someone as a W-2 for 30 hours a week on their podcast. So I think that now like my income is like a little bit more diversified. And even like I'm only working 30 hours a week there and getting one day off, but that one day is enough to allow me to like build things on the side, which I'm diversifying my risk.
I think you're 100% correct that when you get laid off or fired from a job, that if the only thing you do is like blame yourself, okay, if the only thing you do is blame yourself, then you 100% you're going to go into this like dark place. I'm a loser. I can't do anything. And like I said, this mindset, without getting like all fluffy and stuff, I'm a big believer in The Secret, the book, The Secret. And what you put out to the universe, you get back. So if you put negativity out into the universe, you're going to get negativity back. And you put positivity out there, you're going to get positivity back. Okay. But there is an internal locus of control that I think that everybody should have and not play the victim. And I'm not saying that you did that. I'm just saying that you must say, what was my part in having this happen? What can I do better next time? Okay. As opposed to completely relieving yourself of responsibility and going, wasn't me, totally them, they're a bunch of screwed up idiots, whatever. That's not healthy either. Okay. And you can really get yourself into this sort of victim mentality and you never get better because you think to yourself, wasn't me, they're just jerks, So I do believe that you need to take some internal responsibility, but if the only thing you do is blame yourself, that's poor. The yes and piece to this, so that was the disagreement piece, Jeremy. I wish I had spent more time back at the advent of LinkedIn. I wish I had spent more time intentionally building a personal brand. I didn't start doing that until like 2008, but I really didn't do it as earnestly until about 2 or 3 years ago. And so I think you're 1000% correct in that building that personal brand along with the network, a real network, not 10,000 followers on TikTok, then you don't know who they are. Like I'm talking about like making connections with the right people like you did when you were interviewing all these CEOs and stuff like that. Now, you may recall that I spent 7.5, 8 years at ZipRecruiter, a job board. Okay. I can tell you that this is the other yes and, it's not a complete waste of time, but it's a 99.9% waste of time to just be applying to jobs. Okay. And your story and my story is identical. And the lesson for your listeners are your highest probability of getting another job is by getting introduced and referred. Easier said than done. But let me just give you a real-time example. A friend of mine was a recruiter at Discord. And I said, my word, what's it like being a recruiter at Discord where everybody wants to work? And she's like, I get 600 applications per job. Like, how much time do you spend on every resume? And she's like, about 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay. 30 seconds. And she's looking for really quick things. And I go, when do you find the time to sort through 600 resumes, Jeremy? And she goes, well, I typically do it when I'm in other meetings with other people. So that 30 seconds, she's not even 100% focused on the resume. And then I said, well, what about referrals? And she goes, oh, those go right to the top of the pile. And I schedule an interview with them right away. Well, you don't even look at their resume? No, I don't even look. I schedule an interview with them right away and have that initial call as quickly as possible. I'm like, why don't you screen them? And she goes, because remember, this is a referral coming from a coworker of mine. And if I don't jump on it and schedule a time with them, my coworker is going to start bugging me or talking negatively about me to other people. Yeah, she does. I sent her a referral of a great candidate and she didn't even do anything. She hasn't gotten back to them. She hasn't scheduled this. She hasn't done this. So referrals go right to the top of the pile. And for you and for me in these stories that we're telling, my next job I got because my former boss happened to be in a dog park with the guy that I was interviewing and met him. And he goes, KG is great. You should hire him. And so despite not having any industry experience, Jeremy, this new VP of sales was like, well, Jay thinks you're great. I met Jay at the dog park. Jay seems like a good guy. Boom, you're hired. And it was game changing. But yet, if I had spent all this time making sure my resume was perfect and applying to jobs, it would have been, half of 1% success rate. Yet referrals, boom. And if you don't have a network, you can't take advantage of that.
Let me ask you this actually, because sometimes like I feel guilty asking for favors. So I'll give you an example. We're launching an 8-week podcast cohort, and I had to ask one of my buddies, Talon John Simmons, who's got like 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. He's like he made like 500K as a creator in revenue. Like he's killing it. And I wanted to get him to do like an hour like workshop or whatever, but I always feel bad asking for people for favors like that because I know that they're busy and whatever. So, and sometimes going back to referrals too, sometimes I think people feel guilty for asking their friends and their network for things because they don't want to be like seen as the optic of like not giving back or just asking for too much. So how do you ask for it and how do you not feel bad about it if you're prone to that?
I can't give you feelings transplants, but I can impart, and you're 100% correct, by the way. Everyone feels odd about like asking for help like this. Okay. So, and I totally get it. What was the first name of this creator that you're talking about that you wanted to ask for help?
Taylor.
Let me turn the tables on.
Sure.
If Talon picked up the phone and called or texted you and said, hey, Jeremy, can you help me out with something? I'd like you to be on my podcast and I want to interview for a blog post or something like that. Would you be like, jerk?
No, I'd be fine with it. I'd be like, cool. No worries. Let's do it. Because I like him and he's a buddy of mine. So yeah.
Are you busy? But wait. No. Jeremy, no. You're a busy guy. Are you not a busy guy? You told me 30 hours a week plus the other hour and you're doing this, multiple streams of income and all this kind of stuff. You're a busy guy too.
Yeah, I am for sure.
Well, so the gall that this guy has to ask you for help, and you actually are, despite all these things, you being so busy, you are still going to say, yes, I'd be willing to help you. Why?
Yes, because we're friends and that's what friends do. So I think that he would probably do it too. Like, yeah, I just need to get over myself over at the times. I think that asking for help, maybe it's like a limiting belief to do with weakness or something, or I don't know.
There's no question. And so here's, I work with job seekers on the side. It's definitely not a business and job seekers have no money. So I don't make any money doing it. It's like helping people out because I've been through this enough and I've been on, at ZipRecruiter, I saw how a lot of internal things work with respect to like getting jobs and stuff. And if you believe that referrals are your best way of getting into other jobs, then the first thing you need to do, instead of trying to shore up your resume, which I think is like such a garbage. I mean, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm saying it's not the priority. What I tell job seekers to do is the very first step is to take time, open up a Google Doc and start writing down 30 to 50 names of people that you know that either you worked with in the past or you're friends with, or that you think might help you out. And I get the same exact response that you did. Well, gosh, I don't know. I don't even know if they would help me out or not. I then say, the litmus test is very simple. You put the name on the list, and then you ask yourself, if they reached out to me and asked me for help, would I drop everything to help them out? And if the answer is no, well, then don't put them on the list. But if the answer is, of course, if Talon reached out to me, I would absolutely help Talon out. Great. Put Talon on the list. And then get really clear about what new opportunity you're looking for. My job, my mission is to find a fun, fast growing tech company in Los Angeles where I can lead sales teams. Like, get really clear on what you're looking for. And then unabashedly ask for that help. Talon, can you help me, please? Talon, can you help me, please? And you ask for help. Most of the time, it will turn into nothing. But you'd be surprised if you, with discipline, you go through that 30, 40, 50 names, you will find something. And here's a what do you call it? Here's an unlock that people don't really think about. Jeremy, you know nothing about my network. You know nothing, and I know nothing about your network.
Right.
What I have observed about job seekers that go through this process is that they make assumptions about their network and how they can help me out. I'll give you an example. Let's just say you were in the network security business. I'm not in the network security business, okay? You might look at my name and go, KG's not in the network security business, so I'm not going to help him out. But you don't know that my brother spent 18 years at Qualys, which is a network security software company, and knows all these people at that company and blah, 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 blah. So don't make assumptions about what you think their network. This is all about this. Here's a big multi-syllable word that's just hard for salespeople. Serendipity. This is all about serendipity. Like, you just don't know what's out there, and you just put it out there, and the universe, will reward you, eventually. Most of the time, the people that you ask for help are going to say, I'll keep that in mind. If anything crosses my desk, I'll let you know. But there's that 1%, 2%, 3% where they go, oh, you know what? Actually, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were looking for this, and let me connect you with them. Those become these real high probability opportunities, and beat the crap out of click to apply jobs. Beats that is I'm not saying not to do it. Just set your expectations that it's literally like 0.5% of chance that you're going to get that opportunity, which causes you to then go apply for 200 or 300 jobs thinking that that's the thing to do. And it's such a wasted activity.
100%. We have a launch on this podcast committee at 1111. We hired a consultant to help us with the launch. His name's Virgil Brewster, and he basically said, like, instead of relying on like inbound leads, to strategically like do offers to people that you think that want to start a podcast. But that was also a bit of a mental struggle for me, because I haven't done like sales for a while, as far as like reaching out and making an offer and how to approach people. Like, do you like have a conversation first and then like go hit them with an offer, or do you just go straight into a pitch type of thing? Because it annoys people sometimes. So I'm just wondering from your perspective, because it could be done poorly, like where people are like, hey KG, you have a dog and you have a nice smile, so are you free Tuesday or Thursday at 1:00? And I think that that's a lot of people's like lack of strategy for that matter. So I'm just wondering, is there like a proper way to do this? One thing that I've been doing is looking at like people that have came to my profile, and then obviously like just going like, hey, if I look at their experience and I see that they don't have any videos, then I'm like, maybe they could benefit from this. So just thoughts on how to approach it.
If I'm you in those particular situations, you see somebody that's visited your profile, they may or may not be prospects. A great way to initiate the conversation is, hey, saw that you visited my profile. And I noticed that you don't have this, this, and this. You might appreciate my 10-step guide on creating video for blah, 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 whatever it is. Here it is. Give to get. Give to get. Make no mistake about it. The law of reciprocity is really strong. Okay. You give them something, they might feel inclined to then take a call with you. And I didn't say put in like then, hey, would you like to get on a call? I'm just saying, hey, I noticed that you didn't have, I saw you visit my profile. I saw that you don't seem to be using video that much. You might enjoy my blah, 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 blah. Period. Sent. Giving with no expectation of getting anything in return. Okay. That's number one. Number two, if you're doing the cold outreach, do your planning. Like, those are indicators. Like, you got an inbound indicator there. They went to your profile. Okay. So that's one way of handling it. The other situation is, I don't know anybody at all. In that instance, it's cutting to the chase. Do your planning. People talk about signals. It's not like, hey, I went to this school and you went to the same school, blah, 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 blah. You want to do some better, deeper research on their company, their upcoming initiatives, and reach out with a very thoughtful, but concise and to the point email. Your open rates are going to be garbage these days. I mean, it's extremely, and you're talking about an email or an email or a text message, the response, just expect, really, really low response rates. That being said, there's a movement going on right now. And when I say movement, I mean, there's several companies that are trying to crack this code on the network, like referrals, like actual referrals. I'm working with a company right now who uses me as a super connector, basically, and their clients come to them saying, great, we would like to work with your super connectors to help make introductions. And so this is the best way for you to do this. There's somebody, in between you and the company that you want to go after, or the person in particular that you want to go after. You get this double opt-in relationship. You would be sending, this is you, this is the middle, this is the super connector, and this is your target. Okay. You're sending a message to the super connector that knows the target, and you're saying, hey, I'd like to be introduced to so-and-so, and here's my short offering in, 28 seconds or less. Would you be comfortable in attempting to, forwarding this to them to see if they want to be introduced? Let me point out a big difference. Do not ask your super connector to blindly connect you. That's just flat out rude. You want to get the double opt-in. You want to get, hey, super connector, will you find out if this person would like to meet, and let them know it's okay to say no. You got to tell them it's okay to say no. When you get that double opt-in, I want to meet you, you want to meet me, then get the super connector, to connect you. And there's a few companies out there that are trying to codify this and systematize that, but that's going to be your best bet, your highest probability of success in entering into a conversation. That being said, one final number for you, Jeremy. If you're able to convert 5% of raw leads, you're operating at an ultra world-class level. Mostly conversions are down in the 1% to 3% range, when you're doing outreach like this. If you can drive 5% conversion to a sale, that's ultra world-class. So what does that mean? That means that 95 to 99% of the time it's going to turn into nothing, but that shouldn't detract you. That shouldn't deter you from continuing to approach it in those three ways.
Where do people follow you, KG, if they want to learn more or work with you?
LinkedIn, of course, is the easiest place. It's just simply, my username being Kevin Gaither. And I have over 10 free sales leadership guides on my website, InsideSalesExpert.com. That's singular, InsideSalesExpert.com. Thanks for having me on the show, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you.